Hello and welcome to the Program Management and Art of Communication Certification Program. We're in our fourth course, Designing Project Information Hubs for Program and Project Performance, and we're in the first week talking about project communication networks. And in our first module, we're going to define what are communication networks. Throughout the course, we're going to be using a case study, the Boston Big Dig, as an example of the characteristics and some of the pitfalls of program and project management communication networks. If you're not familiar with the Boston Big Dig, it was a construction project to reroute some major roads in Boston and to put some of the roads underground in tunnels. Now, this project was started in 1991 and it was projected to be completed in 1998. It actually was completed in 2007, a major schedule delay. The projected cost was $2.8 billion. And the actual cost ended up being $8.08 billion. That's US dollars. And it wasn't done very well. And there's some great articles out there and some books on the Boston Big Dig and just catalogs all the major problems. Thousands of leaks, substandard materials, and even some safety issues such as the Ginsu guardrails. And if you're familiar with Ginsu knives, these are guardrails that were considered dangerous to even be near. We had one death due to falling ceiling panels. This happened when the motorist was going through. Ceiling panels fell and killed the passenger in the car. And it ended up with criminal arrest, fraud charges, and probably one of the biggest trials in construction management history all around the project management problems of the Boston Big Dig. As program and project managers, we can learn a lot from the Big Dig, especially when we're talking about communication networks. At its peak, the Big Dig had over 5,000 construction workers, hundreds of subcontractors, and 3 major contractors. So there was a lot of communication happening, a lot of information being passed around. So a great way to study how do communication networks form in large programs and large projects. Now, when they put together the Big Dig, and I say they, the program and project managers, they relied heavily on a collaborative integrated project management model. The problem with this was that it really didn't come together, this collaborative integrated project management model, until nearly the end of the project. And that's because you had some folks that kind of came late to the program, and you had some other folks that came late to the project area with their subcontractors. Essentially, you didn't know who was talking to who at any time, and there wasn't really a good tracking mechanism for that. And this is because there was integration problems. You had thousands of stakeholders involved, not just with your project teams and your subcontractors, but also with the government, the local community. So lots of people had to be communicated to and spoken to, and the information had to be tracked. And you just didn't have a kind of good system there that helped track all the communication needs and information needs of all these stakeholders. Another interesting thing about the Big Dig is that it was different from other large construction projects where you have design and construction are kind of together. So the designers and the construction folks are talking to each other. There's a good free flow of information. In this case, you had a design, bid, build. And you had the designers come in and they designed what they were going to do with this project. And then you had bids on the designs from the construction folks. And they would build based on what they bid on those designs. So there was another layer here that kind of impeded the flow of information and communication that you would ordinarily see on construction projects. There was 110 major contracts. That's major. There's a lot of minor contracts here too. But 110 major contracts, and each of these contracts had their own processes and procedures, and sometimes they clashed with other contracts. And again, you could be a subcontractor working on maybe 3 or 4 different contracts that totally conflicted with each other. And you could be doing a process and a procedure that was fine with one contract and was forbidden by another contract. So a lot of confusion and ambiguity. There was little communication between the internal and external stakeholders in the early phases. Although with the Big Dig, they did a great job of talking to the local community about the implications of the Big Dig and what it's going to do to the community. But that was kind of early on. And then you had not as good communication between the internal stakeholders, the different subcontractors and the project managers, and the external stakeholders, like with the government and maybe other agencies that were affected by the construction. And then you had this mix up on the reporting. So you had some managers that reported to the government, other managers reported to the project design and construction program manager, and in many cases, the government didn't really communicate to the design and construction program manager the information they were receiving. So you had different reporting structures, and they sometimes did not meet, and you didn't know what kind of information was being said to each of the different reporting networks. So there was a lot of siloed information out there. So that's some of the lessons we learned from the Big Dig. And when we go through this course, we'll expand upon a lot of these lessons.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this free lesson from the University of Maryland's Project Management Center for Excellence. If you want to check out more lessons just like this one, click the link in the description below where you'll be able to go to our website on executive project management. There, you can find edX courses, professional short courses where you can learn from an instructor like me, as well as request custom team training for you and your organization. All right, let's get back to the lesson, and I'll see you at the end.
To set the stage for the rest of the course, let's talk about the transmission model of communication. So in our first part, we have the source. Right now, I'm the source, and I'm speaking to you, and I'm sending you messages. So, as the source, I have a message that I encode through a transmitter. Now, in this case, I'm speaking into a microphone, which is then recording this audio and putting this into a presentation for you to view on your screen. So we have source, message, transmitter, and this becomes a signal. It becomes an audio signal. And then as it goes over the internet, it becomes an electronic signal. And then it goes, as we talked about, the internet, that's a channel. Also another channel are your speakers. So the message is turned into a signal, it goes through a channel, and hopefully you're hearing me clearly, and we don't have that much noise on the channel. Now you've probably been on some Zoom calls or Skype calls where you get a lot of static and distortion. That's what we mean by noise in the channel there. So once you get my message, which is converted to a signal and it's going through the channel, you're going to get a perceived signal. You're hearing me now. And this is what you're perceiving through your senses. And you are the receiver of this message that's turned into a signal, and you're perceiving that signal. And as the receiver, you're now recreating that message in your mind from what you hear. So I'm speaking to you, and I have an idea of what's in my head, and I use waves, of sound, audio waves, and I am affecting the air pressure around the microphone, which turns into an electrical signal, and then it turns into another signal going over the internet, and then you're hearing it reproduced in your speaker, which causes sound waves to come around into your room, and then you hear auditory signals, and you hear the words, which are the message, and hopefully it reaches the destination in your mind so that you can understand, oh, this is what the transmission model of communication is. It's a source that sends out a message, transmits it through some kind of device, could be writing, could be auditory, whatever, turns into a signal, goes through a channel, you perceive the signal, hopefully the signal is perceived correctly and there's not too much noise attached to it, and as the receiver, you are decoding that message so that you fully understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Hey there, did you enjoy that lesson as much as I did? If you did, go ahead and give us a like. If you want to see another one, go ahead and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, put them below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Moreover, is there somebody in your life who really needs this lesson right now? If so, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Now, we look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where you can learn even more from the University of Maryland Project Management Center for Excellence. Thanks so much.